So, welcome everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss test number 21 of your mission batch, and topic is of polity. Okay, very interesting topic, and it belongs to date of 24th of this month, 2021. Okay, so we shall start. Basically, in my all the attempts, I got good marks in this GS2 papers. Okay, this time also I secured 99 marks in GS2 paper. So this is actually like result of consistent efforts that I have put in GS4, GS2 paper. Okay, so I will just briefly give you idea about how you can write answers of this GS2 paper. Okay, and specifically the first section, that is Indian Constitution and polity and issues associated with that. Okay, so one thing is that in this paper you need to understand demand of the question. Many times if you see previous year question papers, it will be consisting of questions which are maybe 4-liners, 5-liners. Okay, so understanding the demand of the question and decoding those questions is very essential. So please go through previous year question paper. Second thing is value addition and basics. Value addition and basics. So what do I mean by value addition? In this you can refer A, that is Supreme Court judgments. Various judgments are associated with this paper. B, you can also mention about various reports like Administrative Commission Reform, okay, ARC report, Administrative Reform Commission, sorry. Then there are other reports like Panchi Commission, then Sarkaria Commission, if question is on federalism, governor, etc. Okay, so that is what is value addition material. That is also very important. And lastly, in this paper, it is very important to understand the core crux of polity. That is, your dimensions should be very multiple dimensions. Okay, dimensions. Your dimension part. Dimension. It should be multidimensional. That means you should consider all the stakeholders associated with the paper. It means there is a Supreme Court, there is a legislature, there is a media, there is a common public, then there is another stakeholder that is you can consider is your executive. Okay. I think there is some issue in this slide. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, so I was talking about stakeholders. Okay, so for example, one thing is Supreme Court, second thing is your legislature, third thing is your media, fourth thing is your common people or masses. Okay, for fifth thing you can think of is various institutions. Okay, for example, constitutional bodies like election commission, etc. Okay, while writing your this stakeholders approach, for example, if there is any question on any of the events that are happening, like criminalization politics, how media can role play, how legislature can role play, how Supreme Court has already played role, how masses can be aware about criminalization, how institutions like election commission can play a role, etc., etc. These are the institutional approaches that one needs to have in mind. Okay, so let us see the questions, and I will just try to decode how you can use these approaches while writing your answers in polity. Okay, so let us take the questions and let us understand the questions. So first thing is, examine the role of Supreme Court as a final interpreter and guardian of the constitution. Okay, so here examine the role as what they have asked as final interpreter and guardian of the constitution, as final interpreter, and second part is your guardian. Okay, so question consists of these two aspects and it asks you about examining it. So you have to give both the positives and also negatives of the Supreme Court's role. Okay. So in this regard, you can definitely tell that how Supreme Court has been given the power of final interpreter of the Constitution under article like Article 13, Article 32, Article it's for HC it is 226. Then for Supreme Court it is 131 to Article 136 and Article 140 onwards towards Article 145, I think. So these are the articles which are giving powers as a final interpreter and guardian also. So judicial review power has also been given in these articles. Okay, so that is you can just mention. Then another thing is you can also expand on the role of final interpreter. For example, Supreme Court has played a role as a final interpreter in various judgments. Okay. One thing is just we will talk about final interpreter. Okay. For example, you can give example of the right to privacy. Right to privacy is considered to be a fundamental right. Okay, now fundamental right. Then others judgments, including the judgment with respect to your right to education. Okay. So these are the final interpretations of Supreme Court, or maybe even judgments like the Keshwananda Bharti case, in which Supreme Court has interpreted Constitution in the manner of deriving basic structure doctrine (BSD). Okay, so that is final interpreter. Then also you can mention that under judicial review, there is a power to see the constitutional validity of various acts and judgments of the legislature. Okay, so you can talk about, for example, the section 377, which was prohibitive of unnatural physical activities among the persons belonging to same sex. Okay, that has also been invalidated by your judiciary, that is Supreme Court. Navtej Singh Johar judgment you might be aware about. You can refer that judgment in this argument. Okay, so that is also you can just mention as a final interpreter. And in guardian part, you can say about various other judgments like Supreme Court as a guardian of vulnerable sections' interests. Okay, so if you have to refer Vedanta judgment, you can refer Vedanta judgment, or maybe Samta judgment, in which Supreme Court has played a huge role in protecting the interests of vulnerable and marginalized population in India, especially tribal population in India. Okay, so that also you can mention in this answer. Then you can also mention guardian of what? Guardian of fundamental right also. If there is any executive or legislature action which is violating of fundamental rights, Supreme Court will declare it as unconstitutional. Then guardian of the federal spirit of the Constitution also. Federalism is a very sensitive issue in India. Okay, so Supreme Court will prevent a central government to overpower its power and to impinge its power on the state. Okay, so that also you can mention as a guardian. Okay, these are the things that you can mention. I think this is like enough for this question. Then, yeah, for giving the conclusion of this question, you can just say that judiciary, while acting, is acting in a very progressive manner in a way to protect the basic guardian of a fundamental right. But at the same time, there are allegations of judicial overreach, okay, which can also be avoided. Okay, so that also you can talk about. Okay, so that is, or you can also say that for further strengthening of judiciary, Judicial Standards Act, Judicial Standards Act can also be enacted and it can be implemented. That also you can suggest. Okay, let's come to second number question. Impartiality of judiciary is a cornerstone of healthy democracy in India. Not in India specifically, but they have just mentioned in this common sense. Okay, so why this question basically talks about why judicial independence, impartiality. Sorry, impartiality of judiciary is essential. Okay, so that is has been talked about. Judicial impartiality. Impartiality means what? In ethics, you might have learned this terminology. Impartiality is impartiality. Okay, impartiality. Okay, impartiality is non-biased judgment, giving judgment based upon facts, values, and figures that are there in front of the judges, rather than giving judgments based upon any political parties or maybe affiliation with any political party. Okay, so that is the basics of it. Then beyond this, you can also say that why impartiality is essential, because one thing is that rule of law is itself a neutral concept. It does not discriminate any based upon any political party or something like that. Second thing you can talk about is rule of law will be ensured, along with the public faith in the judiciary will also increase. Okay, there will be chance for free and fair election in the democracy. Free and fair election. Okay, there will be power to the people to express themselves, freedom of speech and expression. Power should also or will also be there with the people if judiciary is impartial. Also, this statement, like here keyword is like comment, so you have to again give both the sides, how judicial independence is important, but at the same time you can say that impartiality also helps us to again ensure separation of power. Okay, but sometimes because of lack of impartiality there arises a conflict. For example, here only judicial activism many times takes place, or judicial overreach many times takes place, which may violate the basic separation of principle of power. So in the comment section, you can just give another side of the dimension, that how there are challenges emerging for the impartial judiciary. Okay, then if there is an impartiality, then there will be allegations on the judiciary also. There is a phenomenon like committed bureaucracy. In the same way, there can be people can question the authenticity of the judiciary also. Okay, so it may lead to allegation of the committed judiciary as well in the extreme cases. Okay, so that also part you need to be mentioned in this answer. Okay, you got it? Okay, so that is the thing. Now let us come to the conclusion part. So in a way to ensure that democracy is healthy, etc., these are very important values: free and fair election, then freedom of speech and expression. For this, judiciary can certainly take some of the innovative measures. So for example, solving questions associated with these issues on a priority basis, because we know that in judiciary there are a lot of pending cases. Okay, there are 4 crore pending cases at the present in judiciary. So that also needs to be improved. So impartiality along with efficiency, both are the essential values for judiciary. Okay, so in that way you can conclude that answer. Okay, then let us see question number 3. Discuss how media play a crucial role connecting governments and citizens in a democracy. Okay, so here they have asked about how media plays a role. Okay, role of media. This is, I think, direct syllabus oriented question. Role of media in democracy. Okay, so how media can play a role by connecting citizens with government. Okay, so basically this question is asking role of media. So one thing you can talk about is like media acts as a source of information. Okay, various news channels, etc., various newspapers, source of information that will again give the citizens the right awareness about their own rights. Okay, awareness about their own rights. Okay, so for example, right to freedom of speech, right to practice any religion, propagate any religion, etc., etc. These rights can be available if there is a good media or impartial media. Then the constructive criticism of the government policy you can also talk about. Media can only play good role if media is having neutrality towards government. So constructive criticism of the government policies can also help government in improving their service delivery to the citizens. Okay, so that is also a connecting link. Fourthly, you can also tell that media not only is important, but is considered to be the fourth pillar of the democracy. This statement you can write in introduction, conclusion, or maybe in the body part. Fourth pillar, along with other three pillars, including judiciary, legislature, and executive. Okay, that also you can mention. Then also media's role can also be elaborated by giving various examples. Okay, so for example, media's role in having dialogue, discussion, and deliberation in the democracy. So that will make democracy very participatory. Citizens can participate, and also the views of the people can become multidimensional. Okay, multidimensional. And people can get variety of perspectives. Okay, so these are the some rules that you can talk about. Media can also play a role in a way to promote the voice of the voiceless people. Voice of the voiceless means people who are marginalized, vulnerable, etc. Media can certainly play a constructive role in putting up of their issues in front of the people. That also be can also be the one of the strategy. Okay, so that is the thing. Lastly, you can also talk about how media can so here discuss how media play a critical role in connecting government and citizens in a democracy. So here also you can mention about government schemes, etc. can be made available or can be promoted through the means of media. Okay, for example, Ujwala scheme, or maybe you can talk about Jan Dhan Yojana, or you can talk about any other schemes that you want to talk about. Okay, but at the same time, discuss sometimes there are negatives also. Like the question is asking you to discuss. Discuss means there is also other side of the coin also. So sometimes media can indulge into activities such as fake news. Okay, fake news, or maybe hate based writings, hate speeches, hate based writings. Okay, that again can create a problem between government and the citizens. Okay, so instead of like playing constructive role, sometimes it plays a role otherwise as well. So that also you can discuss in this thing. Okay, so in a way to regulate this, you can just give one of the suggestion that Press Council of India should be given lot many of powers that are required in a way to have free, open, transparent, as well as neutral media. Okay, so that is the thing that you can mention. Okay, then we will see the next part of this question. Question number 4. So question number 4 asks you about there is need to abolish sedition law on the ground that it is used to curb the freedom of speech and expression. Analyze. Okay. Now this question talks about analyzing it. Okay, so analyzing means what? Again, there are two sides of the coin. On this one hand, you have section 124A, which talks about sedition of IPC. Okay, but this was enacted in a way to curb the dissent against the government. Okay, dissent against the government. Okay, so that should be curbed, or government should have some of the government should not be criticized in such a way that it becomes very offensive to the government, or it may considered as contempt of the government, or it may considered as spreading discontent against the government. Okay, so अशा जर ऍक्टिव्हिटी होत असतील तर yes, there is a need for sedition law, because many times there is a direct threat of various such activities to the unity and integrity of India, which should not be compromised at any cost. Okay, that is very important. Listen to this. Okay, so that is the main thing. So you can talk about this initially in introduction, and then what are the issues associated with this section 124A. So why it is considered to be the bad in democratic setup. So first thing you can talk about is no other democracy in the world has such a laws, no other democracy. Okay, then you secondly talk about the historical colonial roots, historical or colonial roots, that this act is having colonial roots. So that is why that morality or principles or ethics at that time was totally different during the colonial times. Okay, now we are living in an age where we are talking about freedom of speech and expression. So if that is the thing, then we do not need the colonial laws that are way back enacted in maybe 19th or 18th century. Okay. Third thing you talk about is like misuse is happening. So law itself is not a bad, but its misuse is happening, and lot of arrest cases are taking place under this act. Okay, that is your Sedition Act. Then you can also mention about it can curb freedom of speech and expression of the people, which is given under the Article 19. So look how I am integrating the things. I talked about historical context. I talked about no other democracy, that is international comparison. I talked about its implementation. I again freedom of speech and expression, which is basic fundamental right in a democracy. So if people needs to be participative in the democracy, they need to have this right of freedom of speech and expression, but which cannot be possible if there is a sedition cases again and again filed against the people. Okay, so that is also another shortcoming. And also you can mention that in the Kedarnath Singh judgment, okay, Supreme Court has given clear guidelines that this article, section 124A of the Constitution should not be used excessively, and it should be used only in specific cases. Okay, there should be distinction between what is dissent and what is contempt of the government. Dissent versus contempt. Contempt is very bad, but dissent in democracy, dissent is the very crux of the democracy. And also Supreme Court talked about so these sections should not be again and again misused. Okay, so that also you can mention. Then what question asks, yeah, historically you can also say that there was a debate in Constituent Assembly in which variety of leaders from various strata of the society has opposed these provisions of Sedition Act. So that also you can definitely mention there. Okay, so but at the same time, this is the one side of the coin. In model answer, you may not find the other side of the coin, but yes, other side is also important. Sedition, you have to say that sedition in some cases is required where there is direct threat to unity and integrity of India. Okay. Also, we are facing a lot of challenges in which terrorism is emerging, which social media handles are used for creating dissent against Indian government. Okay, so these are some of the points that you can definitely talk about sedition, etc. Okay, and that is why we need some of the sedition's provisions so as to prevent these anti-national forces or anti-social forces from disrupting our nation's smooth functioning. Okay, so you can talk about this also. Then let us come to the next question. Question number 5, it talks about social media freedom should not become impediment in curbing the spread of hate speeches online. Comment. Okay. सेडिशन लॉ मध्ये ऍक्च्युअली तुम्ही प्रिव्हियस क्वेश्चनचं जस्ट एक सांगतो, तुम्ही अजून पण केसेस लिहू शकता. ठीक आहे, कन्हैयालाल जजमेंट मध्ये पण इव्हन हेच सांगितलं होतं की देअर शुड नॉट बी एनी मिसयूज ऑफ दिस सेडिशन प्रोव्हिजन. ठीक आहे, किंवा खरं तुमचं केदारनाथ सिंग जजमेंट वगैरे ते तर बघितलं आपण, बट ह्या स्टेटमेंट जजमेंट डेफिनेटली यू हॅव टू राईट इन द एक्झाम. ठीक आहे, जर तुम्ही ह्या गोष्टी लिहिल्या एक्झाम मध्ये तर ओनली यू विल गेट गुड मार्क्स. Otherwise, if you write only generalist things that anybody and everybody can write and will write in the exam, you will not be getting different marks from maybe any other people. You will be getting just average mark. Okay, and that is of no use if you have to give, if you have to come in the list. ठीक आहे, आता ह्या वर्षीचं सांगतो तुम्हाला. ह्या वर्षी मला IPS मिळालंय. ठीक आहे, IPS जिथं संपलं तिथनं फक्त तुम्हाला सांगतो जिथं IPS सुरू होतं जिथं संपतं तिथं हार्डली एक 10 ते 18 मार्कांचा फरक आहे. 10 ते समथिंग आय थिंक 16-17 मार्कांचा फरक आहे. एक मार्क त्यामुळे किती इम्पॉर्टंट आहे, यू विल नो द व्हॅल्यू ऑफ सिंगल मार्क. त्यामुळे जिथं तुम्हाला एक इव्हन सिंगल मार्क जिथं काढता येईल ना युपीएससी मध्ये तिथं प्रयत्न करा. एक मार्कवर लिस्ट मध्ये तुम्हाला सांगतो साधारणपणे यू विल हॅव अराउंड 8 to 9 candidates on single mark. So if you get that single extra mark, your rank will be improved by 8 or 9 persons. Okay, so that is very important to have such a value addition while you are writing your mains examination. Okay, so that is the thing. For example, we will see the question number 5 directly. Question number 5 talks about social media freedom should not become impediment in curbing spread of hate speeches online. Okay. So here question again is associated with freedom of speech and expression versus public order. So this is one of the theme in polity. You have to prepare this very thoroughly. Okay, public order. So which are the conflicting areas here, social media and all these things. Okay, you have to prepare it very thoroughly. First thing we can talk about social media is that with the advent of social media, there is a like improved way of communication in terms of your time as well as in terms of data, content, all things you can talk about. But social media freedom is important and it is considered to be also fundamental right under Article 19 of the Constitution, Article 19, which talks about freedom of speech and expression. But at the same time, you cannot forget that this social media itself can become a threat or many times can be misused for maybe spreading false propaganda. For example, first thing you can talk about here is that hate speeches are being also circulated through social media. Second thing you can talk about is phenomenon of lynching, of masses lynching, that is also emerging in this social media age. Then third thing you can talk about is freedom of speech and expression, although is important, but excessive freedom of speech and expression can lead to defamation of many persons. Defamation is another issue. Then excessive this thing freedom in media can also lead to the cases of sedition. Okay, or people can use social media handles to oppose the government, to give the seditionary speeches, etc. That also you can mention, or also you can give example about how social media is being misused. You can talk about the live streaming of the terrorist attack that has taken place in the Sri Lanka. So that also terrorist attack that you can talk about misuse of social media. Okay, it includes all the social media channels like your Facebook, WhatsApp, etc. Okay, then what other things also social media can do is like it may promote the religious like religious intolerance. Okay, or it may lead to rumor mongering. Okay, for example, during the Delhi riot, you might have seen that there were a lot of rumors about a lot of issues like Hindu-Muslim kind of thing, or maybe there were other rumors as well during the Delhi riot. Okay, so all this is spread through the platform of your social media. Then also it is very difficult that social media can filter out the content and can remove out the hate speeches, etc. Okay, we although are developing artificial intelligence, but still we are not that much successful in a way to remove the hate speeches that are present on the social media handles. Okay, so these are some of the genuine lacunas that we have in the social media and its functioning. Then also question talks about that comment. So here if social media is misused for so many purposes, then you can also talk about how you can improve the functioning of social media. Okay, that you can talk about, and you can talk about various other things. For example, first thing is regulatory authority that should be there for social media. Then there are laws and compliances and rules that are there for even digital media and other social media platform, that they need to be complied. Okay, there should be grievance redressal officer in your social media handles, grievance redressal officer. There will be also nodal officer. Okay, nodal officer which can be controlling this spread of fake news and all these things. Then social media platforms should be held responsible for the content that they are like promoting, and also using their platform, the specific content is being promoted, and that content again is used for various other antisocial activities. Uh, it may include the destruction to public property because of any rumors. Okay, destruction to public property. This can also be the result of that. Okay, so here social media needs to be responsible in a way to manage the things that are there. Then also you can talk about like there are various uh, issues associated with freedom of speech and expression, which you can refer to is the issue of section 66A of Information Technology Act. Although that act has been abolished, that section has been abolished, but still the police are filing cases on the same section because they are not even aware that that section has been abolished by the Supreme Court. Okay, so you can talk about that. On the one side you have freedom of speech and expression, but that should not be to a greater extent that it may lead to total disruption of social law and order, like hate speeches and communal riots and other things. Okay, so that also you need to be mentioned. Then also you can mention about the yeah regulatory framework that also needs to be there for the social media. Then transparency of social media platforms is also essential in a way to manage this whole data spectrum that is very big in its nature. Okay, then you can also say that social media can be used for constructive purposes in a democracy in the conclusion part. So for example, for having participatory democracy, then for having feedback on government policies, social media can certainly be used. Then also third thing you can say is that social media can also be used in a way to promote your this government's schemes. Okay, government schemes. So these are the various benefits of the social media that are directly there. Social media can also ensure that the people there is justice in the society. For example, there is any untoward incidents like rape, etc. People will come on the street by using social media and they will oppose the unjust justice that has happened. Okay, so we have many a times seen such a movements that are happening in India or maybe in abroad. Social media can also mobilize people for good reasons. For example, Black Lives Matter movement in the USA, in which social media has been used in a way to gather people and to oppose that killing of George Floyd. Okay, so that is also you can mention. Then let us come to the question number 6. Just give me a second. Okay, question number 2 talks about the uh, independent judiciary is of critical importance as it provides checks and balances in a political democracy that is critically examined. Now here also the question is talking about critically examined. Okay, critically examined, that means that thing has two sides, two aspects. Okay, so first thing is independent judiciary is of critical importance to provide checks and balances in a political democracy. You have to read question 2-3 times, at least 2-3 times. Okay, then only you will be able to decode. Now in this question, independence of judiciary is the core focus, and they are asking why it is important. Okay, why it is important. Then they are linking it to the democracy, that how it will lead to establishment of good democracy. ठीक है. So judicial independence is another value like judicial accountability. Okay, judicial independence. Okay, so now we will see why it is very important. Okay, now first thing is that when there is judicial independence, you have your basic rights. Government will not have unbridled power, and executives, legislature will be responsible to the judiciary when there is an independence of judiciary. Okay. Second thing, if you think of, there will be free and fair election in that democracy. Free and fair election. If judiciary is independent, you can access to the judiciary, and you can give, you can like you can get justice in that judiciary, but it should be independent for that purpose. Okay, so that is also you can mention. Then what question else is asking about? Also, judicial independence will ensure rights not for like these people, but it will also ensure like rule of law. Rule of law. Now here, what is meaning of this rule of law? Law will be equal for each and everyone. Okay, each and everyone. Okay. Law will not be discriminated towards any of the political party or maybe any of the VIP persons. Law will be equal for anyone. Okay. Fourth thing you can talk about here is that judicial independence is essential in a way to curb the popularity or popular demands which may be used by politicians to garner votes. Okay, judicial independence. For example, environment was an area which was earlier neglected. That was not the part of your mainstream political discussion and deliberation. But when judiciary got independence, after this principle of judicial independence, judiciary has taken a lot of steps in a way to improve the environment also. Okay, so that is also you can mention. Last thing is this judicial independence also can prevent the misuse of power by any of the constitutional machinery. Okay. For example, if there is a political party A and B in a state maybe Z, okay, and if there is judiciary which is independent, judiciary can give suggestions to the even governor in a way to have good government formation in that particular state. Okay, governor should be acting in a very impartial manner in that scenario. So judiciary can set guidelines like in what manner government can be formed in good sense. Okay, so that also you can mention in the question. Okay, now question also asks that it provides checks and balances in political democracy. Okay, so checks and balances means here also we have talked about free and fair election, etc. These are also part of the same question, and also like you can just mention question asks about critically examine. So you have to just ask that is judiciary in India totally independent? Okay, so the answer is yes, it is largely independent, but there are some issues as well. So those issues also you need to mention under this question. So if there is a lack of judicial independence, it may lead to creation of maybe as earlier we talked about committed judiciary favoring some or the other political party. Sometimes judicial independence may lead to judicial overreach also. Judicial overreach. Okay. So judiciary can come out of their own ambit, and judiciary can enter in the domain of your executives or legislature, and the function of legislature and executive may also be performed by judiciary. We have various cases. For example, Vishaka guideline, or Vishaka guideline is a little bit positive case, but you can talk about cases in which judiciary has banned the liquor Okay, liquor ban on the highways. Liquor ban on the highways. Okay, or judiciary saying to the Madras priests that what clothes they should be wearing. It is not a function of judiciary, but still judiciary going beyond their jurisdiction and saying this thing. ठीक आहे, म्हणजे त्यालाच आपण ओव्हररीच असं म्हणतो, ज्युडिशियल ओव्हररीच असं त्याला आपण म्हणतो. किंवा कधी कधी जो इंडिपेंडन्स आहे ज्युडिशियरीचा तो कशामुळे क्वेश्चन केला जाऊ शकतो, तर ज्युडिशियरीच्या ज्या केसेस अलोकेशन होतात दॅट इज ऑन द मास्टर ऑफ द रोस्टर बेसिस. सो ज्युडिशियरीचा जो चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया असतो ही ओनली सोनली हॅव ऑथॉरिटी टू ऑथोराइज दी केसेस. सो फॉर एक्झाम्पल दिस मे बी द बायस्ड डिसिजन. फॉर एक्झाम्पल जर पर्सन ABC एखाद्या पॉलिटिकल पार्टीला फेवर करणारा असेल तर त्याला मे बी ती केस एखादी दिली जाऊ शकेल की जी केस ह्या पॉलिटिकल पार्टीसाठी इम्पॉर्टंट आहे. ठीक आहे, सो दॅट अगेन कॅन बिकम अ प्रॉब्लेम. देन दिस मे रिझल्ट इन टू फेवरेटिझम इन प्रमोशन्स अँड अपॉइंटमेंट्स. फेवरेटिझम. अँड लास्टली ज्युडिशियल इंडिपेंडन्सला सगळ्यात जास्त धोका कशामुळे? इट इज दॅट इज ज्युडिशियल इंडिपेंडन्स डज नॉट मीन ज्युडिशियल लॅक ऑफ ज्युडिशियल अकाउंटेबिलिटी. हे लक्षात घ्या. ज्युडिशियल इंडिपेंडन्स मध्ये जजेस विल डिमांड दॅट जजेस शुड अपॉइंट जजेस इन कोलिजियम सिस्टीम. ओके, बट दॅट शुड नॉट बी द criteria. Judges appointing judges should be accountable to the other form of the government as well, including your legislature and executive. Okay, they should also be taken into confidence. Okay, so that is also the thing that judges should not only appoint judges, but there should be impartial appointment to the judiciary. So in the conclusion part, you can mention that yes, judicial independence is important, but that does not mean that judicial exclusivity should take place. Okay, judicial independence is different from judicial exclusivity. Judicial independence demands judicial accountability to the other two organs of the government, and that does not many a times seems to happen. That is why this question is very critically examined. They have said critically examined. Okay, so that can be your conclusion. And also you can say that judicial independence is also demanded in SP Gupta judgment. Okay, SP Gupta versus Union of India. That judgment is also having impact on the judicial independence. Okay, then you are let us come to question number 7. Question 7. What is that question? Has governor been acting more as an agent of center rather than being constitutional head of the state? Analyze in light of recent controversies involving the post of governor. The question is very simple and straightforward. It is asking you that whether government is acting as an agent of central government or whether it is a separate constitutional authority that it is having and acting in an impartial manner. The answer is, I think, the first one, that governor many a times acts as a your agent of the central political party that is ruling. So how can you substantiate that agent of central party? Agent of central party. So although constitutional office, but still it is acting in this manner. So this you can elaborate through various things. For example, misuse of Article 356. Okay, which is related with the president's rule. President's rule. Okay, many times false report is also given. Second thing you can talk about is like political behavior. Although office needs to be very impartial and apolitical, but still political behavior is there. For example, giving instructions to the chief secretaries by chief secretary by office of governor, which is not mandated. CM should directly be in a contact with chief secretary. It is no function of the governor to give any instruction to the chief secretary. Okay, then third point is with respect to hung assembly. When there is a hung assembly, people or the this governor will many a times go with the party which is in central government. He will call party in that state which is ruling at the central government first to form the government. So many times this has happened, like in Karnataka case also, that same thing happened. Single largest party having less majority than the pre-party, pre-election coalition has been called for the government formation. So that also shows biasness. Then also you can talk about how the report of governor given to the president, or many a times report with respect to state may be biased, or many times state laws are also preserved for the consent of president. State laws, so these state laws not only reserved for the governor or for the president, but also it is being hindered at the state level. Okay, there will be delay in implementing that law, which may be required for the state government in very immediate format, but still it does not happen because of these reasons, like sending of that particular bill by the governor to the president's assent. Okay, so that is also thing that you can talk about. And lastly, you can talk about why this thing is happening, why they are acting as an agent of the central government, because ultimately the removal power of this governor lies in the hand of your president, and presidents act on the advice of council of minister headed by prime minister. Okay, so that is the connection. That is why governor's office is considered to be many times it is considered to be non-neutral, or it is considered to be favoring the central political party. Okay, then if these are the issues, then what like solution you can suggest in a way to address this thing? So there you can mention 2-3 solutions. First thing is that appointment of non-political person on their post. Non-political person should be appointed. Second thing you can mention, as Sarkaria Commission and Punchi Commission has also talked about having cooling off period for a politician if at all he has to be appointed as governor of a particular state. Third thing is that governor should act according to the constitutional morality and not according to his own principles or his own belief that he may be favoring certain political party over the another political party. Okay, so that is also the thing that you can talk about. Then also in this regard, you can mention other things. For example, how governor's office can be made apolitical is that appointment of governor can be done while having consultation with chief minister, and that should be mandatory. Chief minister's consent should be there for the appointment of governor, because they are the two major stakeholders in the state level, at the state level. Okay, so that also you can mention. Okay, so this is for this question. You can mention Sarkari and Panchi Commission. Okay, so these are the basic things. Okay, then we will move to the next question. Question number 8. What it talks about? Question number 8. Just I will read the question. Discuss the importance of public opinion and pressure groups in a democracy. Importance of public opinion and what? Pressure group. Pressure group in a democracy. How it can help in ensuring good governance. How it can help in ensuring good governance. That is very simple question actually. Very simple question. Okay. We have to link with this with good governance. Okay. So first thing is that public opinion again will create a pressure group type situation, and many times impacts policy level matters. So how it impacts? For example, at the policy formulation level, public will give some suggestions. For example, TRAI, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, has sought the suggestions from common masses in a way to feel this good policy, or in a way to frame good acts. in that regard. Okay. Second thing is that the feedback system also can be strengthened. Feedback. Okay, feedback system can also be strengthened from public to the this thing. Then public opinion can also create some of the laws by putting pressure. For example, law against harassment of women. Okay, law against harassment of women. Okay, so these also is a impact of that public opinion. Public opinion can also create multiple perspective in a democracy. Multiple perspectives. ठीक आहे. सो त्याच्यामध्ये मल्टिपल पर्स्पेक्टिव्ह मध्ये यू कॅन से दॅट some of the people might be favoring this might be favoring the what you can say multiple perspective on policies. ठीक आहे. फॉर एक्झाम्पल नेट न्यूट्रॅलिटी issue you can mention. ठीक आहे. That how people fought for the net neutrality rather than the biased internet that is there in the world. ठीक आहे. So that also you can mention. Okay. Next. Yes. Most important point is like here you can also talk about the saving the vulnerable sections interest. Public opinion is very important. Vulnerable sections interest. Public opinion is very important. Okay, so that also you can talk about. For example, public opinion in India with respect to Narmada Bachao. ठीक है, Narmada Bachao. ठीक है, that has also resulted into proper rehabilitation of many tribals. Okay, that is also there. Then you can also like talk about how like it can also act as a pressure group also. ठीक है. So for example, having rule of law, not giving VIP treatment to any person, or it can also promote the impartiality of media. If there is a good public opinion, it can also help impartial media development. ठीक है. It can also act as a pressure group against the bad things. For example, bad deeds like corruption. If there is a public opinion, there will be very high pressure on the corrupt politicians. Okay, public opinion will also shape your electoral outcomes through discussion, debate, etc. Electoral outcomes. ठीक है. So this also you need to be mentioned in the chapter in this thing. Okay. Yeah. So also yeah, I think this is enough for this thing. Then lastly you can mention that public opinion, higher is the diversity, higher is the chances of pluralism in the democracy. Your democracy will become participatory. Okay, because public is participating in the democratic process. Then also for good governance, public opinion is important in a way to ensure transparency. So for example, the acts such as Right to Information Act has been caused or enacted because of public opinion and movement led by Anna Hazare. Okay, Anna Hazare. So you can definitely talk about all these things and how public opinion is important for both the purpose, like for your policy formulation also and policy feedback also. Okay, so that also you can mention. Let us come to the second last question. That is ninth question. Okay, so ninth question. Problem of India is not the absence of law, but it is effective implementation. Discuss. Okay, now problem of India is what? Implementation of the law. Implementation. and not law in itself, not law. So for example, you have to first break the statement that you have to say that although in India we have very good laws, okay, for example, Environmental Protection Act we have for protecting environment, or Water Act, Air Act, or maybe you can talk about Wildlife Protection Act. Okay, these are the laws for the environmental conservation, but still environmental degradation is happening in India. So this is the first thing that you can talk about. Then we'll also have gender progressive law like Dowry Abolition Act. Okay, but still dowry is being given. Then you have Maternity Benefit Act. Maternity Benefit Act. Okay, under this also there is a very good provision for the women's participation in labor force, but that is also being neglected. Okay, then with respect to other things, we also have other laws. For example, right to information, etc. These are laws in a way to promote good governance through transparency in the democracy. Okay, but what is the issue is that there is a lack in implementation. So, what are the problems at implementation level? Okay, so you can be multidimensional. One thing is that while implementation of law, there is lack of political willpower in many times. Political willpower. So, for example, if there is a law on illegal construction, people will not favor its demolition of illegal buildings that are built after even inaction of law. Why? Because there is lack of political willpower. Then in the law implementation, second issue is with respect to government staffing. Okay, there is very less staff in the government sector, which is there in a way to fulfill demands of around 140 crore people. So population is also very high. Then another thing is that in India, it is not easy to implement laws because of inherent diversity that India have in terms of cultural diversity, regional diversity, linguistic diversity, culture, region, language. Okay. So if you go to the northeastern part, you will find there are thousands of dialects, and it is very difficult that one administrator can speak so much of dialects in a way to understand the people. These are the real problems. Then at implementation level, you also have budgetary constraint many times. Okay, budgetary constraints are there. Okay, so many times availability of budget is not for like enough for the implementation of some of the schemes. Then implementation level issue can also be other issues. For example, there is a lack of public awareness. Okay, public awareness is not there. Okay, so it is very difficult to implement these laws. Okay. Then another thing is like despite violation of law, there is a less conviction rate. For example, in laws, some of the laws, the conviction rate is just 2 to 3%. You have National Security Act, etc. The conviction rate is very less because there is lack of political, evidences on these things. So laws will be having some of the limitation because of all these factors. All these factors you can mention. Okay. One factor is that we are a cooperative federal society. So state cooperation with center is also very important component. Okay. If that is not there, then laws implementation will be faulty, because ultimately central government is dependent upon the state government in a way to implement these laws. And if state government are not cooperating, then it is very difficult to have good implementation of these acts and provisions. Okay, you are getting the point. Okay. Very dimensions. See how many dimensions I have covered. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7. At least 7 dimensions you can cover. Okay. Then for solution purpose, you can give various solution, like for example rationalization of law. How this can happen? You can dismantle or demolish the laws which are archaic, which are old, which are not useful in the 21st century. Okay, second thing is that government staffing as well as your budgetary constraints, budget allocation should also be there higher when you are implementing the laws. Okay, lastly, you have to mention that feedback mechanism. Feedback mechanism through maybe social audit or maybe through any other means. Okay, for example, environmental impact assessment, etc. This is very important. Okay, to have the good implementation. Good implementation. So this you can suggest as a way forward. Okay, so that completes your whole question. That although we have law, you can give some of the examples. Then you can say yes, laws are there, but implementation is not. Why? Because of these many factors. And then you can say that in a way to implement that factor, you can suggest way forward as we have mentioned here. Also, you can write like use of technology. Okay, in a way to optimize the labor force that is available in the government. So that also you can mention. Okay. Now let us see the another thing. The last question of this session, that is, what is judicial activism? Then critically analyze the role of judicial activism in Indian democracy. Okay, very simple question. What is judicial activism? Now, judicial activism is when judiciary goes beyond explicit mandate, and when it invents explicit mandate, and when it invents anything new. For example, in Keshwananda Bharti case, judiciary has invented what it is called as basic structure doctrine. Okay, that is considered to be a judicial activism. But here, in judicial activism, it does not necessarily impinge upon the power of legislature or power of executive. Okay, that is the case with respect to judicial overreach. When we think about judicial overreach, okay, so you can mention that also. No need to mention in this question because question specifically asks what is judicial activism and critically analyze judicial activism in India. Okay, so for example, in a way to mention the importance of judicial activism, you can say various things. For example, one thing is that judicial activism is envisaged under the articles, for example, Article 13 of the Constitution, Article 32 of the Constitution, 226 of the Constitution. Okay, you can also say that there is a good thing about judicial activism, that it bridges the policy gaps that are there with respect to legislature making policy. Okay, so for example, you might be aware about Vishakha judgment, in which there was no guidelines given by the legislature when it comes to the sexual harassment of women at workplace. Okay, workplace. So these guidelines were brought by judiciary. Okay, and then these are called as Vishakha guidelines. Okay, so judicial activism is also helpful. Then judicial activism is helpful for variety of purpose. What question asks? Yeah, in judicial activism, you can mention that these are some of the positives. Then also you can mention vulnerable sections. Okay, like SC/ST population. We have also talked about MC Mehta judgment and Samata judgment, in which judiciary has come up with these solutions to the problems of the vulnerable sections that are there in the society. Okay, so these are the prominent areas that you can mention as areas of judicial activism. Then also you can mention judicial activism will again lead to the creation of the fundamental rights as a basic value. Fundamental rights. ठीक है? So fundamental rights के protection के लिए judicial activism is very important, and that we have seen time and again. Okay, so for example, Puttaswamy judgment fundamental right, privacy is considered to be a fundamental right after that Puttaswamy judgment. That is because of judicial activism. Then in judicial activism, you can have free and fair elections. Free and fair elections. Okay, free and fair elections. Okay, so Supreme Court in Lily Thomas judgment has given Lily Thomas judgment. Okay, Supreme Court has said that if politicians is convicted for more than 2 years, it should be he or she should not be allowed to contest elections. Okay, so that is also one of the things that you can mention. Then why judicial activism is taking place? Because of there are issues associated with legislature surpassing their jurisdiction. ठीक है, many times. So, for example, if there is a emergency again in India, then judiciary will become active, and judiciary will struck down that emergency provision if there is unconstitutional in nature. ठीक है. So, for all these practical purposes, it is essential. Okay. Now, what is question is asking after that? It is asking critically analyze role of judicial activism in India. Okay. Now again, they have said critically analyze. So you have mentioned good positive points here. All these things are positive. Here also you can mention like this Article 21 of the Indian Constitution has been time and again progressively interpreted by judiciary. Now in this article you have your right to have clean environment, okay, and also you have right to dignity. These are various basic good things about judicial activism, but at the same time you have to mention the negatives associated with judicial activism. That is, it can many a time lead to judicial overreach. Okay. This is the one thing. Okay. Second thing is that negative में क्या आता है, और it excessive judicial activism may make executive and legislature branch as lethargic. They will not perform their functions. Okay. It may again violate the separation of power. Separation of power. It may again lead to various conflicts between all the three organs. If separation of power is being violated, then conflicting situations will be there with respect to judiciary, executive and legislature. Okay, judiciary, executive and legislature. So these are the dimensions that you can mention in this question to ensure that you have covered both the positives as well as negatives about judicial activism. Okay. So in this way, you can answer this question. Okay. Now, I just wanted to talk about basic things that we have mentioned in the initial, that this paper is very dynamic. So you need to balance the, like we have covered all the 10 questions. Now we will be just shifting to just 5 minutes of overall approach to the paper, that is GS2 paper. Okay. So this paper is very dynamic. So you need to be aware about current affairs as well as your basics. So while revising the M. Lakshmikant, you can revise it for prelims as well as for mains, because at least 5 questions will be there from M. Lakshmikant directly in the mains from this section. Okay. Then current affairs you have to cover from various magazines of different classes as well as from newspaper. Okay. That is the basic approach. Newspaper. And again, I have talked to you about the dimensional aspect. So you need to cover various dimensions and you need to add value. Okay. So that is a basic core crux. Okay. Of this paper. If you have hold on this now, you will be able to secure good marks. And like, let me remind you again, 1 mark will make a huge difference in your rank as well as your service. So be aware about this and study GS2 in a very nice manner. I hope you will be able to make it to the final list soon, and I am very hopeful for that. And so all the best for that. We will meet again next time. Okay, thank you.